it it could really be something special at Oregon. I'm excited for DJ. You know what I mean? And just a second chance at the situation where he can rewrite. Just some of the stuff that happened. And but to him, my from my just talking to my son, the place what I call, if there's one word to describe where he's at, the word is called peace. He's at
Hmm.
peace. He's at peace with everything. He I FaceTimed him yesterday while I was watching the game at Clemson. The boy was in the meeting with his team. He didn't care to go watch the game. You know, he still loved them guys out there. You know what I mean? Those are his brothers.
Yeah.
And a lot of people
Yeah.
thinking he's at the house watching the game. Man, trust me, my son loved those guys. You know what I mean? He never. I don't know. My son is just a good person, right?
Hmm.
And he was at a meeting. He tells me, "Dad, I'll talk to you later, but my phone is blowing up." I'm telling him, "Yeah, probably because they're trying to talk to you about the Clemson game, right?" But I'm
Yeah.
telling you, that just shows you right there where DJ's head is at. He's not worried about anything in the past. He's
Yeah.
at peace with everything, and he's just moving forward with the team that he's playing with right now. And I'm just happy for him.
I would tell you that I think that he's been nothing but a grown up about it.
Yeah,
When they he got asked some things right after he left and talking about the situation and how it was, and he said some things that he felt was true, and he deserved to be able to say so because he took a lot of hits.
man.
He's taken a lot of shots and not really responded. And when they asked him one more time about it, I think it was fair for him to say he didn't understand what was going on with the offense, that he wasn't.
He
There was some
wasn't
things.
happy. He wasn't happy with what they were doing. I
Right.
mean,
And it
you
was
know,
fair. That's a fair thing to say, Big Dave. That's a fair
there's
thing to
nothing
say.
wrong with him speaking his. If you really go back and look at my son's 2 years or 3 years that he was there, never once did he ever blame anybody. Never
That's right.
once did he ever go against the team. He put everything on his shoulders and tried his hardest to be the, to take responsibility because you're the quarterback. And the one
Yeah.
thing when I explained to him about that position, you the leader, man. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad, and you're gonna take all the hits for it. And he did, And here's
Hmm.
an opportunity where he got to just open up a little bit. And I don't think he was being malicious or anything.
He
He was
wasn't.
just being
He
honest.
wasn't. And anybody who thought that he was, I mean, you don't know the kid because
Yeah,
I've heard a lot worse out of people after they transferred. I mean, hey, we heard a lot of crazy stuff coming out about Lincoln Riley once he left Oklahoma, and a lot of the things that were going on. And there were people that said what was real, and of course they took a lot of heat for that too. But I got to tell you that, to me, I thought it was a grown up way to go about it. He's shut it down. It's not something that he says a lot of stuff. He's not going to sit and talk about them now, or he's going to sit there and gloat in the fact that they didn't play
no
very
way.
good yesterday.
He will
That's just
never.
not how he rolls. And
That's
so
his brothers out there, man.
that's right. He still loves those
One
guys.
of his
Those
favorite guys is Shipley. You know what I mean? You think my son want to root for him to lose? No way, man.
And
Mhm.
No
it
way.
just it just goes overall just to talk about just the high level of character, not just by DJ, but
Yeah,
just your entire family. And I can tell
man.
you this: he handled it incredibly. Things happen for a reason, but I can tell you this: it's just the good nature of your son is, to put
Yeah,
it lightly. I mean, he's a definite leader. There was never been a question about that. He's been a leader no matter what, when he was at Clemson and now when he's in Oregon State. And I just think that the fact that he's dialed in, okay, deep down inside, he's rooting for those guys. Like you said, he's never going to root against them. He wants them to be
Right.
successful. But I can tell you this though, he's dedicated to the team that he's at right now, and he's
yeah,
dedicated to leading those young men that are in his locker room. He's a
yeah,
veteran in that locker room, and he's a leader. And I'll tell you what, he's just dialed into what he needs to do. That's really what makes him a tremendous player, but more
yeah.
importantly, a leader. I always tell people, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And I'll tell you
Yes,
what, your son's one of those guys, man. He's a true leader, a true man of character, and that's why people love him and respect him no matter where he is. So it's putting it simple.
Fact. Oh, we lost him. He must have gotten a call there.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I like that comment that you made there. Yeah, and Kirk, I think you're absolutely right. Clemson wishes they had DJ, missing that leadership. Hey, Connor, I love that. He could have made a sandwich back there. That was awesome. Awesome stuff. Yeah, and hey, Big Dave, glad you made it back. No worries. Hey, Connor,
Thank you.
One of our guys, he said DJ said I could have made a sandwich back there.
Yeah.
But I tell you, that throw, as much time as he still had to. It wasn't like that was an easy throw there. He had that guy was pretty much blanking him. He put it on the money from, it's a 25, 30-yard throw, and it was a laser in there that he made. It was a great throw, great touchdown.
You know what I loved about it most, honestly? What I loved about it most is just his footwork and how composed and calm he was. I mean, he's literally looking at every one of his progressions, and guess what? Had no intention of running. The point was this: we're going to score a tutty, or we're going to get at least 20 or 30 yards in this throw. Yeah. He's going to do a hell of a job this year, and it's only that was only week 1. I mean,
there's a reason why I picked him, man. I've had him picked for the Pac-12, man. I really do, and I'm hoping that it helps maybe get them to the Big 12. I think it's a shame what's going on with them and Washington State for that matter. That
conference realignment right now is just
that conference was mismanaged so badly for so long, and you've got some of these programs that were the most loyal to the conference are the ones that are getting screwed on it. So I really hope that that they find a way to get them into a better conference. And I know that more than likely they probably, I don't see how you couldn't, right? I don't see how you couldn't. So yeah, only as long as it was a fried Spam sandwich. Always got something. Hey, our audience is a trip, man. Our audience is a trip. No, but listen, I think like I said, I feel like that's going to be a something that we see a lot of going into it. Folks, we do want to jump into the Big 12, and I know you guys are already kind of talking about it here in the comments. Again, we've got a little over 30 people in here. We've only got 13 likes. Make sure you wipe your feet before you come in my house. Wipe your feet and hit that like button, man. We'd appreciate it. It helps us tremendously when you do that. All right. Let's talk a little bit about this week 1 flop job in the Big 12. You've had Brett Yormark being pretty boisterous about who he thinks is going to do what, talking some smack, more about Texas, which is fine with me for the most part, but more about Texas than about OU. But his teams that he was expecting to kind of compete, 2 of them fell on their face a little bit, particularly Baylor losing at home to Texas State by 11. Then you also had Texas Tech going on the road. They're the ones that, he was there in Lubbock saying some things about hoping that they beat Texas on their way out on Thanksgiving, that he was going to be there. Not a great look, if you ask me. I think that those 2 schools are still a part of the conference, and you should have probably, you don't want that look of impropriety or, the bad officiating has been a thing in the Big 12 for a long time. You saw there were only 4 total holding calls against conference opponents a year ago of Oklahoma and Texas. So that doesn't look good. And then you go in and say something like that. I think that the main thing about it that I think is bad is that if Texas Tech is to go in there and win, it's not going to be fair to them, because there's going to be immediate questions on whether or not it was called correctly and fairly. And I think that that's going to be a question the entire conference season, and I think it's messed up. JJ, what do you think about that? And obviously, he kind of put a little target on their back, and they didn't get it done this weekend. Yeah,
so obviously it was certainly a tough weekend for the Big 12. I think there's really 2 parts to this for me. Some of these losses, I watched the loss to Wyoming. I watched that on TV. That was tough to watch. I didn't get to watch the Texas State loss, but Baylor, that guy's going to be on the hot seat. He really is now at this point, because it's starting to go downhill, right? Even with the way they played. Overall, BYU only beating Sanford State by 14, 14-0.
Oklahoma State in a dogfight all the way till the end with a Scottie Pippen-less Central Arkansas.
Yeah, when you look at it from a perspective of what the conference is supposed to look like and revamped and all this stuff, it was just a horrendous weekend. I mean, the results were not there. I understand why Yormark's doing what he's doing because he has to, continue to brand the conference and get notoriety and eyeballs on it. But these teams got to show up. I just think right now the teams in this conference are just not holding up their end of the bargain. I think Oklahoma State is in for a long year. With the amount of transfers that they had, you saw the amount of change, especially, look, they changed their entire defensive philosophy. And I think it's going to be a major issue for the rest of the year for Oklahoma State. BYU is going to continue to struggle this year. Same with Baylor. I mean, you look at it at this point, Texas and Oklahoma are really the only two bright spots. West Virginia had a tough game.
Looking the way that they did as well.
Yeah, Kansas State did look good. Yes. Yeah. I think West Virginia, they had a tough game, obviously, up in Happy Valley. That was a blowout. But you know what, though? Hey, that's a 17 in the country. I can understand to a degree of that. But overall, you look at the conference, it just didn't do well. I think Yormark's going to have to continue to try to sell this stuff right now. But these teams have to start stepping up because right now they're not performing well. It certainly took a major hit on their credibility towards football. People trying to call them a basketball conference now and not a football conference. We'll see what they do, but they got to get after it, because right now when you look at it, Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. So when you look at the teams that are coming in, Utah will be in a year, and so will Colorado. And I love what Coach Prime's doing. I love what he did in week 1 against TCU. But you know what? The teams that are there right now, they got to start stepping up a little bit. Same with Houston. They didn't look good this weekend. There's got to be some progress here in week 2. And usually teams make their biggest improvement from week 1 to week 2.
Right. JJ, you're breaking up just a little bit. Are you good on your internet there?
Yeah. How's it now?
A little better now. Yeah. Big Dave, obviously we can kind of bring that into it. Looking at CU and what they did. I mean, I don't know how much you saw that game, being where you were at. Obviously the Oregon game is going on at the same time, but whoa, big day for Coach Prime's Buffaloes. They go in. You get 4 touchdowns, 510 passing yards for Shedeur Sanders. He's another one of those dudes that can spin it and run. And it's been kind of amazing to me that people have expected so little out of Colorado. I know that they flipped around an entire roster. You kind of saw the same thing with USC a year ago, and they went to 11 wins. Are they as good as you probably want them to be in the trenches? I don't think so. But when you got a guy like that and skill guys like Travis Hunter and, some of the guys that they had, I mean, did it surprise you that much that they went in there and did that to TCU?
I think everyone was surprised. That was the biggest surprise. And no one thought, I don't care what anybody says. No one thought CU was going to do that, bro. I promise you. Mm-hmm. The one thing to me, the quarterback, Hunter, you know what I mean? But what you were speaking about, the amount of players that he brought in, I don't know if it was about 45, right? 45.
It was more like 70, I think. Okay. By the time it was all said and done, they only had 10, 12 guys that are still the same from last year. So he basically flipped the entire roster, which when you win one game, what do you expect,
Yeah. Well, I'm going to speak on Oregon. When I was with my son enrolling this past January, they had 30 early enrollments.
Yeah.
So Oregon flipped their roster. It's not surprising why they did that. I get it. That's Portland State, but what they brought in, I saw with my own 2 eyes, and they didn't just bring in some regular guys. They brought in some real key guys, and I'm pretty sure that's what CU did. And everyone just didn't assume that CU was going to be what they saw, right, against TCU, a team that was in the championship game. And boy, I mean, everyone's. I was at the Oregon game, and people were texting about it. While I was at the Oregon game, the ticket sale went skyrocket for the Oregon and CU game at Oregon. Yeah,
I bet. Yeah, no doubt. It's going to sell out everywhere. I think I think that you're going to see, more than likely, you're going to see Colorado on television. They did over 3 million views on Fox. It was easily the biggest view amount of the weekend, And again, I think a lot of it, whether or not you expected them to win or not, they were a 3 touchdown underdog. So there was even Vegas wasn't expecting them to win. I talked about it earlier. I've been talking about it throughout the offseason. I didn't say for sure they were going to win. I did earlier on in the season. I felt like, and the reason I felt that way is because I think that you get a big hangover from losing like that in the national championship game if you're TCU, not to mention the fact that they lost as many guys as they did. I didn't really see them being as good as what we saw TCU a year ago. I wouldn't call what they did a flop, but that's another Big 12 team that lost. The good news on that one was it's a Big 12 team coming back into the conference a year from now. So that's good for Yormark and the Big 12. But, aside from the teams that, you had Utah had a big win over Florida on Thursday. Then you had, of course, CU doing their thing as well. Look, I feel like this is probably going to be a big deal for that. The conference needs these four schools coming in from the Pac-12 as much as anything, because some of these schools that didn't, or that are supposed to be carrying the torch once Oklahoma and Texas leave, really didn't show up very well this weekend. Again, I'll say Kansas State did, and I believe a lot in what Kansas State's doing. Chris Kleiman, Kansas has got a chance to kind of carry the torch this week against the Big Ten. Playing Illinois and Brett Bielema, but we're going to have to find out, and we'll see. Yeah, they've got tape against them. They had tape against them from last year too. If they were watching Jackson State, it didn't help anything. We're going to find out though. You're right, Cracker. We're going to find out what they're really about. But I think that Coach Prime probably loves it that people continue to doubt him. I think that he would.
I'm a West Coast diehard Pac-12 supporter.
Yep.
It sucks to finally have a great. We're 13-0, right? Wait, 12-0. Every team won. The quarterback play is amazing across the board here.
Whoa.
This is our last year, man. I'm bummed for the Pac-12. That's all I want to say.
We've been saying that a lot too, and it's been a shame that it's been that way, and a lot of the stuff that happened as far as what was being said back and forth between the conferences and during realignment and all that stuff. It's a shame that it went down that way. It's a shame that it very easily could have been the other way around though. The Big 12 could have been the one that got poached. It could have, but you had, again, I'll just say it. You had bad leadership from the presidents. You had bad leadership from the commissioners, both of the last two, and it ended up hurting them. That's what the whole deal was. In the end, it is what it is. It's we're the good news is we're going to continue to see good football out of these guys, and we'll see. But I've moved CU to a 6-6 bowl team. Yeah, we'll see. I think that 6 is probably their floor. Cracker. I think that 6 is probably their floor. I don't know a whole lot of teams in the pack that are going to be able to beat them with that kind of offense. If they're not playing great defense, you're going to have a hard time keeping up with that offense. So
yeah, I think at this point, one, it was good to see them in one game to where they played really well. But the question, I think, in terms of some of the comments here, and I like some of the comments that are going through here, is TCU that good, or were they really that bad? That's the questions that I have at this point. Clearly, Colorado's offense is really good. But the question is, at this point, what's their defense going to do? Because I had some questions about even TCU's offense. You thought at some point they're going to start figuring it out. But, Colorado, I think they certainly have the talent. I agree with right now 6-6. But here's what I can tell you. If they come out week 2 and play the way and just absolutely knock the snot out of Nebraska, then we need to start having a discussion about, hey, we're going 7, 8, 9 games. Because that's back-to-back games where you're just handing a whooping on somebody.
Well, my wonder is if Nebraska has enough offense to keep up with them. Even if they don't have great defense. I mean, Travis, his interception that he had, he baited him into that throw. That was something else, by the way. But for that guy to go and play 100 and it was over 100 snaps. You've never seen anything like that before at the college level where they're going both ways and playing 100 snaps and being leaders on both sides of the ball, right?
Yeah.
It was really, really big time. I mean, to me, I feel like, it was a big game. I expect that they should. I know I think they're favored by about 3.5 at home. I don't know what to expect from Nebraska after that loss at Minnesota. I know it's a tough place to go play in the Big Ten. I'm not sure that I believe a whole lot in Minnesota to begin with, so I wouldn't. You know,
I just think right now, and I understand that
like
Colorado being favored, because guess what? That place is going to be rocking, man. I mean, with the one, they sold out all their games to begin with already, but the fact that just I love Coach Prime and the swagger he's got. I really like it. He's a positive guy. He's developing young men. I love that stuff, man. There's nothing better than that and being a leader. I'm just excited to see what they do. I want to see what they do now. How do they handle success? We talk about, when you're the underdog, you got nothing to lose. You're playing at the top of your realm. Now we get to see this team. How do they handle success? Are they ready to turn the page and continue their success, or they take a relapse to head back? So that's why I'm excited for week 2, man. I just, there's nothing better than college football, man. There's nothing will ever touch it. You know what I mean? Everybody talks about the NFL. College football, man, it's just one of the best sports to watch because you get to watch week in and week out. It's any given Saturday, baby. It don't matter who you're facing. It comes down to execution and preparation. That's what it comes down to. And I'm excited for these week 2 games.
I just to add to my brother, just what Dion is doing, Prime. I mean, he's one of the most amazing mentors,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
The more he wins, the more you're going to believe whatever that man says, and he speaks the truth and he believes in his kids. That's what I love. I love watching him just prove people wrong, and just love on his kids, right? And he sets the standard of he go against the grain sometimes, but at the same time for a good reason, right? He's doing it for the right reasons. He's not doing it for anything else but for the kids and for their success, and just trying to make sure that he raised not just athletes but men with respect.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way he does things. Punctual, right? I mean, who do you know that your son comes late and it's a championship game and you don't allow him to play because you have to hold him accountable, just like
over a practice too. It was like a meeting during the practice week. It wasn't even game day or anything like that. Unbelievable, right?
Unbelievable, man. And just what he's doing now is just.
And that's where I think it's unfair. A lot of this criticism and stuff like that, and who they are, who they're not. Yeah. The one thing I'll say about, like you're saying, I feel like Coach Prime he's been completely on brand this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's not different than what he was at Jackson State. He's not different than what he was in the league. This is who Coach Prime is.
Yes.
You don't necessarily have to love it. You don't have to like how loud he is. I understand that. I think that some of the stuff he says, it's easy to see how it puts some people off.
Yeah.
But what you can't do is argue with his results and the fact that he's been a coach for a little over 10 years, starting in high school. He moved up to the HBCU level, and everywhere he's been, they've been successful. Not to mention the fact that, look, he hasn't brought in it's not like he thinks that he knows everything about coaching. He's brought in some freaking amazing coaches. Sean Lewis is one of the top offensive minds in the country, period. There's 6 guys on his staff that have been head coaches at either the Division I or NFL level. It can only, I think that if you doubt these guys, you doubt them at your own peril, because at some point, I'm not picking them to win the Pac-12 this year. I'm not picking them to go to the national or to the college football playoff either. But don't think for one second that they didn't just put the Pac-12 on notice that they're a tough out, period, every week. That's the way I feel about it. They're a tough out every week,
Mm-hmm.
All right, and everybody here is I actually like this one. Big Dave can be an honorary OU Sooner fan next season for the Big 12 or for the SEC. Since they're going to be headed in there. I know you are a big fan of Coach Venables, and obviously you talked a little bit about they went in and had a big weekend. You're supposed to go beat Arkansas State like that, but 73-0, you did your job, right?
Man, that's Arkansas. I watched Arkansas last year when they played Alabama, and they played great. I don't know if it was last year or the year before.
No, it was Arkansas State is who they had though.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
Butch Jones though. I mean, he coached at Tennessee before that. You know, and he had won 9 the year that they fired him. He won 9 games. So it's kind of odd that the way that went down. But I got to tell you, you're supposed to win that game, no doubt about that. And you're supposed to probably blow them out. But they kept their foot on the gas. You know, it's not that they were mistake free, but their quarterbacks were 30 of 33. You know, you had a freshman that got to come in. He goes 11 of 11. They made sure to keep their foot on the necks of them of the opposition, unlike a lot of these other schools that you saw in the Big 12 this weekend. So, you know, they did what they were supposed to do, and I know you're a fan of Coach BV. So,
yeah, he's a close friend. I love Venables. I love Coach Bates, O-line, D-line coach there. You know, all the Clemson buddies that we had right when we were at Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Great coaching, great, just flat out mentorship and the things that they do up there. I'm rooting for him. They had to go out there and perform like that, right? He has to make a statement. It's kind of like, you know, just I guess the years that he's been there, it's kind of been kind of shaky, been a tough, but I think he had to make a statement, and I don't think anyone had a problem with that.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, it was important for him to, after 6 and 7 a year ago. I mean, when you're Oklahoma, nobody's okay with that. You know, no matter what. They lost a lot of the players. You know, you lost 2 5-star quarterbacks, including the guy that goes and wins the Heisman. You know, defensively, they lost a lot of guys off the defense that wasn't even very good. So it was very hard for them to kind of do the things that they wanted to do. But if you've watched what they've done in recruiting, in the portal themselves, you know, they have found ways to build up, bring some guys in that are important. Getting David Stone may have been one of the biggest things that they possibly could have done to get him to commit. You know, a 5-star plus guy on the defensive line. You know how they are with those defensive linemen, the Brent Venables defensive lines, and the way that they play defense. So you had to expect that they were going to get better. I still feel like that there's some room to grow. And I think that you're going to see that throughout, you know, the season. But I think that the schedule sets up very nice for them to be playing in Arlington for the Big 12 championship on their way out of the conference there. And I suspect that they should do it. You know, the toughest games they're going to have coming up, I think, you know, Kansas is going to be a tough out for everybody. When you have Jalen Daniels, there's another quarterback that's electric. You know, you got to go on the road for that one. They don't have to deal with Kansas State. They don't have to deal with Texas Tech. They get Texas, obviously, in the Red River Shootout. And then they get TCU at the end of the season, plus a trip to BYU as well. Those are going to be your toughest games. The last Bedlam game, you might expect that Oklahoma State would come up with some kind of game to play against them. I'm going to tell you they're going to beat the brakes off of Oklahoma State in that last one. There's been a lot of smack talk going back and forth. So,
but Venables Venables is too good of a coach. That's why you know being a Pitt and facing that guy. I like the character of the man, but more importantly, he's a hell of a coach, man. He's put together a good staff down there. I love the relationship between him and Bob Stoops. He's going to be successful there. Just let him do his job. He's going to build the culture. He's going to do a good job. That's why I'm so happy for him. And honestly, he waited this long of time to find the right place. Oklahoma's the right place. He's going to be there for a long time.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And I think that, you know, as long as you continue to, you know, recruit like this, and this is what you have to do to play in the SEC and to really compete for national championships, you have to be good in the trenches, particularly on that defensive side of the ball. You know, they're going to have to play better defense than they were ever going to play with Lincoln Riley. If anybody who had the over-under, it only took me about 40 minutes to say something bad about Lincoln Riley. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, Daniels didn't play because he was hurt this last season. Yeah, and look, I think that you're going to end up seeing – I think that's one of the bigger games this week coming up is to see kind of what they do against a better defense like that, because one thing that we know about teams that for Brett Bielema's teams, they're going to play defense, right? They had a heck of a defense this last season in his first year at Illinois. So we're going to see. Was he hurt this weekend too? Huh. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you might hang 100 on Okie Light is what Kim says. I like it. I hope they do, man. I hope they do. Been too much trash coming out of there. Too much. All right. Moving on. Hey, we've talked a little bit about Coach Prime. Speaking of apologies, again, look, Clemson, new quarterback, new offensive coordinator, they still didn't get it done. Big Dave, we're not going to have you get in here and say too much about this, but I did want to talk to our ACC guy, JJ. What was your thoughts on that game last night with Clemson? I mean, they did not look the part. When it came to offensive production, they just didn't get it done, man.
Yeah, so I mean, it was certainly a strange game because to be fair to them, I will say this: when I watched the whole game, one, to the ACC fans watching this, and obviously Duke, as I've said before, Duke's a good football team. What Mike Elko has done and Kevin Johns, what they've done with that offense and that defense in general, turning Duke around from what they were just a couple years ago. Congrats to them because Mike Elko's done a hell of a job, and I think he's a hell of a football coach. Don't know how long he'll be at Duke because he's going to get a lot of notoriety and there'll be some jobs that'll be available for him. But what I can tell you is this, Duke did a good job, but Clemson really lost that game themselves. And here's why. When you're inside the 5-yard line 4 times and you continually do not score, and it's not like, it was amazing plays or it was goal line stops. I mean, they basically fumbled or threw an interception, just dumb mistakes to where if you even conclude just even a couple field goals that they missed, I mean, they really left like 28 to 30, like 31 points on the board. That's unlike Clemson, and again, I'm a huge Shipley guy. I think he's a hell of a running back. They ran up and down the field. They did what they wanted to do. They could have done it continuously. They rushed for over 200 yards. I think Cade Klubnik, he needs to look, there was mistakes made and there were bad throws. That there certainly was. Okay. There were certainly mistakes made. Do the wide receivers need to create more separation? Yeah, I think there needs to be more weapons on the outside. There's some real question marks there. But when you look at the game overall, damn, man, they were inside the five times and didn't even score. And then on top of that, missed 2 field goals. So when you look at it, it was really self-inflicted. But at the same time, though, there were certainly question marks with them. The non-separations from the wide receivers, the tight end play was not good. The play selection. You look at the play, and I talked about it with a couple of fans last night. Everyone talked about, well, is it the offense? It's a Tony Elliott? Is it the players? It's the system. It's they call it like the Clemson system. You know what I mean? I think they need to start. The best coordinators figure out how to put the best players in the position to be successful. And I think right now they're trying to stay in that Clemson system to where they don't want to go to Garrett Riley and they want to stay towards what Dabo wants to do. And they're not letting them really do what he wants to do. Let Garrett Riley do what he wants to do.
That doesn't make any sense to me, man. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. How are you going to bring this guy in and then handcuff him to what? And listen, that system isn't hard to learn.
Yeah.
It's not.
Very quarterback friendly. That's why you saw Heisman at TCU last year.
It's it's 2 words usually for a play call. We're not talking about tough stuff. Look, if that's what's going on, then Dabo's got to get it together. You went with this guy for a reason. Why would you bring him into handcuffing? That doesn't make any sense at all. None.
It's having control over everything and being uptight. Look, every coach around the country will have their say in terms of whether it's offense or defense or what they want done.
Sure.
An ego gets involved a little bit, but I think what Dabo needs to do is allow Garrett Riley to do what he does best. Max Duggan was a guy that was a backup quarterback last year, comes in, does his system, and then look what happens. He flourishes into a Heisman candidate. TCU has a hell of a year, and then look what happens. There's got to be some type of release, okay? Because eventually you got to quit blaming the players because it's not the players anymore. It's the system of what you're running. And it's been multiple years. I watched it in 2021 when Clemson came to Pitt. I watched it, and look, Clemson's been good every year. It doesn't matter. Even they're down year, they're winning 9 or 10
They're going to be
games.
good again. They're going to be good again. I think they're going to get it figured out. They're too good on defense to be able – I mean, look, you essentially gave up a lot of those points on the fact that you weren't scoring it. And at some point, whenever you don't get the offense moving and staying on the field long enough, your defense is going to break down. And we know that, right?
Yeah.
Look, the bottom line is that to me, I picked Clemson to be one of those teams that could go to the college football playoff because of the fact that because I figured Dabo would let him do his thing, you know, and if you let him come in and do his thing, look at what he did for TCU a year ago. You know, I know Sonny had something to do with that, and so did the defense that they had that was left over from Gary Patterson. But you can't tell me for 1 second that, because look, I watched Max Duggan for 4 freaking years before that, and he was never close to that good. I'm sorry, he wasn't. So, you know, look, let this guy come in and do his thing if that's what's up. Otherwise, I mean, look, it just doesn't make sense to me why you would even bother doing it. And look, one thing we haven't seen Lincoln Riley or his brother's offense with a real defense. And that's what they have at Clemson.
Mm-hmm. That's a star-studded defense, man. I think they're extremely fast.
Unbelievably good.
They're doing their job. I just felt bad for the defense last night because they were put into positions to where they shouldn't have been, you know, and just constant mistakes. And I mean, honestly, watching the game, I mean, I'm not even a Clemson fan. And let me tell you something. I'm like, damn, come on, Clemson, you're so damn close every time. You know, I can't even imagine a coach on the staff where you're down there in the red zone, you're so close, you're about to get back in the game. You had a little bit of help, boom, and then you have a fumble or an interception. I think Clemson overall will be okay, but I think they needed this to get the egos out of it and say, hey, what are we doing best for the team? What are we doing best for the team to win these games? And I think those questions will be answered.
I think that's a fair thing to say. I think that's a hell of a statement. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, I'm sitting here listening. Remember, I've watched him the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing him the last 2 years, the frustration. I was getting the same frustration as if that was my son out there.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand when we play other teams. I love their offensive schemes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in my head, why aren't we running those cross routes?
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing what they're doing? But we're so stuck into that scheme or whatever, what we do at Clemson, right?
Yeah.
Do you know the first 3 plays of coming out? The first 3 plays were run plays.
Yeah.
But there was so much talking about how different this offense was going to be going downfield. I also didn't understand why we're still throwing the ball sideways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it was baffling me, you know, and that defense is an amazing defense. And I got to give credit. That quarterback at Duke is for real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That quarterback at Duke, like I remember we played Pitt. That quarterback at Pitt was for real, brother. You know, and there's only so much the defense can do until, you know, something's gonna crack, right, in that armor. And it happened last night. The fact that we were in the red zone 4 times, I can't believe that, 4 or 5 times, and didn't come out with no score. I was sitting there baffled. What the heck is going on? I don't know if the stars aligned and said, you know what, we're not allowing Clemson to score or something. I don't know what was going on. I was like, these are easy scores. If we give it to Shipley, let him run it in. You know? It was just, it was sickening for me just to see that. I'm like, I look, you know, I know my son didn't struggle there and all of that, but at the same time, there's kids on that team I love too.
Absolutely.
I don't know what was going on last night. I'm sitting there watching this game. I'm like baffled as hell. And I just feel like what you guys are saying, man, we got to just let Riley do what he is best, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's going to happen because
what was the point of hiring him if not, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and they have no choice now not to do it now. You have to.
Right. Yeah. And I think it was concerning when Dabo says it, you know, at the post-game presser, you know, hey, no, we're running Clemson's offense. No, Dabo, you're not running Clemson's offense. Let Garrett Riley run his offense. Because now you're seeing the transition. The greatest leaders, i.e. Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, you're looking at these other guys in other conferences, especially the SEC, where the guys that are able to transition and develop with the times and keep up with everything and understand, hey, you know what? I don't know everything. That's why I have this assistant coach here, because the greatest teams have the greatest assistant coaches. That's the next level of a lot of these teams, why they're so good. Even Tennessee with Josh Heupel and everybody he's brought in. Even with, I love how Jeff Levy's over at Oklahoma now. I love when you bring in the right assistant coaches.
You gotta let them do their thing, man. You gotta let them do their thing. And real quick, I want to just introduce Eric Cooper. Coop onto the show. He's a all the time contributor to the show. He's from Unfair Sports as well. Welcome to the show, Coop. I know you got in right in the middle of a conversation, but
it sounds exciting. And sorry guys, I got a sick missus tonight, and so all bedtime duties go to daddy, and then they get graded afterwards too. So it's like 7:30 turns into 8:30. So there we are. Watching that game last, you saw a program kind of fighting with itself. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Duke, but
you're right.
It's a program fighting itself, and when you bring in, that's why everybody is critical about what's going on at A&M, is because you bring in folks and you tinker with everything. And Jason, you're about to hear something that you didn't think you'd hear out of me. I got to give props to Prime. I mean, Prime brought in coordinators, and he said, "All right, do your job. I'm going to go after. I'm going to get us on the spotlight. I'm going to have eyeballs on us. You do your job."
Know what he doesn't know.
Yeah. And so, you don't think Nick Saban brings in all these castaways so that he can, basically just turn his entire program off of them. That's a different deal. But when you bring in Garrett Riley, and I kept on seeing that, what the Garrett Riley offense has, was it 1 touchdown in the past 8 quarters? Mm-hmm. This is not what Clemson's going to look like. It's not what Clemson's going to look like. They're going to bounce back. Everybody's all of a sudden going like, "Oh, Notre Dame's going to have a walkover right there." No, come on, guys, calm down. It's Clemson's going to rebound because there's talent. And even if, and I'm gonna throw some shade here, but even if Klubnik maxes out at a Spencer Rattler level, that he's got the defense and he's got playmakers around him to at least be a serviceable quarterback. Now, is he, his predecessors? Not yet, but he's young and he will be. But you saw it when DJ had to come in for Trevor Lawrence. Everybody booked up for Trevor Lawrence, and so DJ went balling. When Klubnik came in last year for DJ, he balled out. And when you get a chance and you got to run the offense like you're supposed to, sometimes things look a little bit different, and sometimes you react things differently. But that's what good coaches do, is they say, "All right, that wasn't what we expected. Now let's hop back on the horse," because you don't think Clemson's going to be like, there's no such thing as a rebuilding year.
I got a question.
I had to put that on mute for a second. I had to get on that dog. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Big Dave.
No, I got a question. How do you guys feel? Because this always been a problem to me with Clemson. How do you guys feel with Dabble and the portal? I see Alabama get kids from portal. I see all the schools that are successful getting kids to portal. I'm like sitting there watching Dabble, and I'm like, brother, please, we gotta evolve just like everyone else. And to me, that prideful stand of
he reminds me of that baby that doesn't want the last bite of peas, just holding his mouth closed and shaking his head and throwing a shit fit. And it's ridiculous to me. I don't understand it. And Coach Venables kind of acted that way this past season. The first season he was there, didn't really utilize the portal much, and he needed to. He did it this season. You look, at some point you have to move with the times, and whether you like it or not. And I understand that you don't want to invite problems, because you definitely recruit your own problems. Go ahead. But I'll tell you,
I would
go ahead. Coop.
I would say this, and maybe it's just because I watched this movie the other day, but this is going to be a borderline edgy comment here, but not adopting the portal is like basketball not adopting black folks. Like, if you think that you can just continue on the train that you've been running this whole time, you're going to get left in the dirt. And
Yeah.
you saw that, and you just got to get with it. Or in any sport, not taking in analytics. Any sport, that's like you drafting a Steven Adams and saying, hey, we're going to build our team around a powerful center like we're playing in the 90s. You can't do that. You got to look at what's around you, and you see it. I mean, if you watch the Oklahoma game, what's the first? What's the all these plays happen, and the first bomb is Dylan Gabriel, a transfer, to Andrell Anthony, a transfer. And the defensive line, most of those guys are transfers. You got to take it, and it is there because again, it's recruiting is for both the recruit and the program. It's kind of like dating. It's all a bunch of bull, because what you're seeing during the recruiting process, it's not going to be what it's going to be like when you get there. In most cases, you're going to see the real person. You're going to see her fart, in front of you, stuff like that. And so sometimes guys do come in and they're not a perfect fit and they need to go somewhere else. And so for Clemson, they lost Venables. You saw the record with, and I don't have it right in front of me, but Dabo's lost more games since Venables left than he did before.
That was the next thing I was going to bring up. JJ, what do you feel like that has something to do with this? Is that you no longer have Coach Venables in there to make it to where you don't have to worry yourself about that side of the football first and foremost? I mean, they still have his defense there, and he didn't pull. The one thing that he didn't do was poach players from Clemson. He promised he wouldn't. He hasn't. But it seems like he may have taken away the most important part of that team, and that was him.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. You go ahead.
No, please do tell us. Please do tell us what you think, Big Dave. If you're
Big Dave,
willing to talk about it, you're a Clemson guy.
No, yeah, for me being there, just seeing what was going on there, of course, in anything that you do, it's always, for me, if you're starting a business or you're a coaching staff, you don't try to reinvent the wheel. If you bring somebody there who knows how to do what they're supposed to be doing, why would you handcuff this person, right? Like Venable being there. I mean, the guy, Dabo didn't have to worry about defense. You know what I mean? Venable took care of business. You saw that every time they came. And yes, he's lost more games since Venable left. Mm-hmm. And bringing all these other, bringing in Riley, come on, you're bringing him there for what he did at TCU, right?
Yeah.
And for me, why handcuff that? Why, if you're going to bring someone, let them do the business of what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And me being there watching everything, I get Dabo with the whole, the whole Clemson way and all of that stuff, but Dabo, it takes a team. You know what I mean? A team of coaches. You got to allow them and trust them in what they do best. And I think if, just like what we're talking about here, handcuffing people, not allowing them to do what their God-given talent and having success in the results that they did have, you won't get that, right. For me, it
doesn't make sense to me. It definitely doesn't make sense to me. But give us what you think there, JJ.
So I kind of, in my way, I kind of related to what the New England Patriots are right now. There's the Belichick way, the Patriot way, but right now they're lagging a little bit behind. You're seeing them drift away. The same thing with Clemson. Okay, I understand his way of doing things. Hey, we recruit our guys. We want our guys to be in this area. This is who we are, our culture. But just like anybody else, I think Colorado's an outlier because obviously Dion took over a different program, had to change everything. But you use it's a lot like you use the portal to supplement the areas that you're deficient in. Okay, you don't need to recruit your entire roster from the portal, but there's going to be certain areas each year that you say, you know what, maybe we missed on this guy. When we recruited this guy, hey, maybe we missed on this guy. Then you want to add in those portions. Like for instance, Pitt's done that, and Pitt has seen success the past 4 years where we haven't seen before since really the 2010s or even the early 80s. Because you're supplementing, you're understanding, hey, we're deficient in these areas. We're going to put people in these positions where we know we're not as much in depth or that much in strength. You're able to fill those voids. But also, too, the greatest head coaches allow their coaches to coach. You brought them in for a reason. I love how Prime today on the Pat McAfee show said, look, It starts with the staff. It starts with the people that we bring in from the top down. Every great organization, whether it's business, universities, you name it. NFL teams, it's the owner, the GM, the coach. And the universities, it's the board, the president, the AD, and the football coach, the head football coach, and then the guys he brings in. When you're able to do that, and you build the culture that you want to build, you're automatically going to attract the players that you want in your system. And when you attract the players you want in your system, you're going to be successful. And I think right now with Clemson, it's that tug of war in there right now. There's friction. You know, we don't want friction. We want things to be smooth. We want to put down a nice, good piece of concrete, put it down, make it nice and smooth. Right now, they're having that issue. Allow these guys to coach. Allow Garrett Riley to coach. And honestly, the defensive coordinator there now, Goodwin, he had major reviews. He learned everything he learned from Brent Venables. I just think that the thing they're missing the most right now is the reliability of Brent Venables in the corner, where he was the assistant head coach and he controlled everything else behind the scenes. That's what they're missing right now, and they need to let these guys coach.
Would you say, though, you know, in watching that game, and, you know, I tried to go back and watch a few things. You know, Garrett Riley and Dabo didn't fumble the ball 3 times, you know, down at the goal line. And so, I mean, you got to think. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it with the stuff in the past, where you've got the defense just continually out there, and they'll make plays. They'll make a stop. Then the offense goes and lays an egg or scores in 11 seconds, and they're right back out there. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you can have a good defense, and the moment that you start giving the ball for multiple possessions, they're not going to get rest. And then you're looking at a guy who is trying to follow in Daniel Jones' footsteps and trying to make a name for himself. And now people are going to know him. But that game is completely not a blowout in real life. You know, without the scoreboard is what the scoreboard is. But they moved the ball up and down. So I don't think it was really a Garrett Riley system, you know, in the end of it. But it is. I think that there was a little bit of, you know, just lack of focus of detail. Because, I mean, it's not, let's be honest, Duke looks better than what we remember, but Duke isn't a juggernaut on defense. They shouldn't be punching the ball out at the goal line several times in one game. And you know, so there you are. I mean, they were causing turnovers against Duke too, and then the offense couldn't capitalize.
And I think it starts there. And
let me welcome my co-host into the show real quick here, Coach Philip Roybal. Welcome in, Coach. Thanks for joining us. I know you were talking a lot about you've been talking to me since last night about this as well. You know, this offensive juggernaut not getting it, or supposed to be an offensive juggernaut not getting it done.
You're on mute, Coach.
I think you're on mute. Go ahead, Coach.
Jesus.
There you go. You're good.
Am I good now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here's the deal, guys. It wasn't a blowout. It was an ass whooping. Is what it was. Let's call it what it was. They got their ass kicked. And guys, that's been happening a lot lately. You know, Notre Dame sucked last year, and we gave them a ass whooping. And Dabo better get used to it. And I just listening to a little bit of what I've heard from you guys is the system's got to change. And, you know, just because you used to win doing this doesn't mean you're going to continue to. I mean, Dabo's a smart guy. I mean, come on, you ought to see it. It's right in front of you, and you know, hell, it's like a damn rattlesnake. It's biting your ass, and you ain't doing nothing. So it's time for him to, like y'all said, let your coaches coach. You know. And guys, let's be honest. You know, hell, I was a head coach for a long time. I was the dumbest coach on the staff, and I hired people that were great coaches, and I let them go to work. And it was my job as the head coach, and it should be for almost all head coaches. It's your job to lead the pack. It's their job to coach the hell out of their kids, to build relationships with their kids. And you know, if those kids know it's coming from you and they buy into you as the position coach, you're going to get a lot more out of it as a team. And, talking about how offense didn't get it done or defense didn't get it done, guys, last time I checked this sport, it's a team game. And it don't make a damn if the offense got it done or the defense didn't. We're all in this together. The last time I checked the scoreboard, they all lost their ass. It wasn't the defense lost or, so again, but you know what, guys? And I can hear us say Duke's not that good. Well, I guarantee you, guys, they're pretty damn good.
They are good.
We can say they're not very good, but they're pretty damn good. And you're going to see
They won
that
9 games last year.
as the season progresses, they're pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Is Clemson pretty damn good? Not right now. But can they be? Can they salvage this season? Hell yeah, it's one game. They're going to be fine if he'll do those things you guys were talking about.
Clemson had over 400 yards.
Yes, sir.
Way more yardage than, you know what I mean? So
Well, they just pissed down their leg every time they got down to the goal line.
exactly.
They just pissed down their leg. They should have won that ball game.
Yes,
Mhm.
they should. I agree.
Yep. When you're in the red zone like that and you don't convert, or even, and not even just that, not even the red zone, even the field goals they missed 2 field goals. They really left 31 points on the board. They were able to run the football. They had over 200 yards rushing. They were able to do what they want, but when you look at it, you could tell they were just out of sync. And then the minute they fell down by a couple touchdowns, they started pressing. Guys were moved. The guys weren't thinking. They were pressing. All of a sudden, you have more turnovers.
And that's what happens. It snowballs on you. You're exactly right.
And the momentum just crushes you. So in reality, Coach, I agree with you. I think if they allow Garrett Riley and just, again, come together as a team, I think this team could be really, really good. And guess what? They're ranked number 25 today in the AP poll. They still have a good opponent still on the schedule. FSU still on the schedule here in a couple of weeks. We'll see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Florida State did a hell of a job beating up LSU over the weekend. We'll see what that looks like. But again, Clemson's certainly got enough chances. It's only week 1. They're still ranked. The goals are all still in front of them. We'll see what they do going forward.
Damn, I hated to see LSU get beat.
You know what I
I
like to see? What I liked about today? I look at the top rankings and OSU is at 16.
Yeah.
And then I see Clemson at 25.
Yeah.
And then I think to myself, well, I think my son made a good decision,
Yeah.
And I'm proud of him for it. I'm not looking to downplay Clemson. I'm just saying, he did the best thing for him. And I'm very proud
He
of him.
looked damn good.
Very proud of him.
He looked great. He looked great.
Really, really good this weekend, man. And I think, again, that's my pick to win that conference. I would not be surprised at all if he did. Big question, coming in from Stephen G. I like this question. Is the Hateful Eight bad, and will Dion own the Big 12 soon?
Let's wait because
don't get ahead of ourselves. Yeah,
it's
sorry.
no. I mean, if you take TCU's, they did what they did last year. We talked about it quite a bit. They had almost every single break that could potentially go their way went their way. They just 100%. They balled out last year. They lost a lot. They bring in a lot of guys. That defense, though, the year before looked bad. TCU's defense has not looked good in quite a long time. And last night, they had to play ball with somebody who was willing to go score with them. Now, was I dead wrong on Shedeur? Yes, 100% dead wrong on Shedeur. He is much better than I gave him props for. But I also think that TCU might be on the struggle bus this year. And we need to see them go in, because now instead of, hey, let's prove it to the world, now everybody's riding really high and they think that they're on third base about to come home to score. And so let's see what happens, the rest of the year. That conference, I dubbed it the "Oh Bless Your Heart" conference, a while back, because it doesn't have any primetime names in it. It's got a lot of interesting stories, but there are about 8 teams in there that could say, "Hey, listen, let's go make this ours." You're just going to see most of these remaining teams are teams who can really give it a good shot every 2 to 3 years. And so you're going to see a lot of rotation up at the top of that. But, you know, if you're Colorado or Utah or anybody coming in, you're not looking at anybody going, dang, that's the game that we got to circle right there. You're just saying we got to work on us. Let's go get better. And then when we show up, we take care of who's in front of us. Doesn't matter who it is. And, you know, let the chips, you know, fall where they may. You know,
what I find interesting, though, is I guarantee you, I would say probably at least 90% of the country didn't think that Colorado would beat TCU, maybe closer to 99%, because as we've sat on this show alone and the different people we've had in here, I guarantee you there weren't very many Colorado believers. There weren't very many prime supporters. And guys, like I said before, he's not doing it the traditional way. He's not doing it. Even the college coaches hate him because he's doing it differently. But you know what? There's different ways to get from point A to point B and be successful. And just because he's done it different, and number two, because he's loud about doing it. He's loud, and he's going to tell you what he thinks. He doesn't give a shit what you think. He's going to lay it out there, and people don't like that. From coaches to administrators to fans. But I'm going to tell you, and I saw the question earlier, how many games is Colorado going to win? I truly believe they'll win 5 to 6 ball games. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, there was a lot of smack talked about them, but they look pretty damn good, guys.
Offensively, they definitely look good. They definitely look good. And talking about, you know, listen, with the Pac-12, Big Dave said it earlier. They went 12-0. 12-0, you know, on the weekend. And another one of those big wins was against an SEC opponent, and with those Utah Utes kind of just destroying them. They look, and I've been saying this a lot. Coach, we say this a lot on this program. I feel like Coach Witt might be one of the top 2 or 3 coaches in the entire country. Period. No two ways around it. You don't get the kind of guys that a lot of these other, you know, big brands are getting, and every year they find a way to win. They're playing 2 backup quarterbacks, not even their normal. As you're saying here, Cam Lewis, Cam. Look, they still dominated the football game. 24-11 wasn't even as close as it was. It makes it sound a hell of a lot closer than what it was. They owned them, right? They owned them. So to me, these guys, it's a shame that things are the way that they are as far as, you know, how the conferences are shaking out, and that you don't get to continue to have the Pac-12 the way it was. The good news, I think, for the Big 12 is you're bringing in some of these good programs, and you've got an opportunity to bring in a couple more, and I would go get them. Yes. You know, if I'm the Big 12, I don't rest on this and just think, you know, we can't afford to go get these guys. I think you go and you get Oregon State and even Wazoo, because that's a good travel partner for Oregon State. And I think you need to go do that. I think it's ridiculous to not do that. And look, to hell with the basketball programs, right? That's not who you got to, that's not what you need to do right now. You don't need to go and get UConn and these other, if you're the Big 12 right now, what pays is football. And if you've got a player, if Jonathan Smith is going to stay at his alma mater, they're going to be good. That's all there is to it. They're going to be good. You know, I mean, when you can bring in a guy like DJ, you know, into your program, along with a lot of good guys that he brought in, you know for sure that they're going to be a player. Yep. And again, with Utah, I think that they hit a home run there. I know everybody in the Big 12 got sick of their mouth when it came to the you know, the fan base and stuff like that. But make no mistake, they made the conference better when you're losing your 2 blue bloods going into the future. You need programs like that.
To be honest with you, I wish the ACC would add Oregon State and Washington State and to create a pod out there with Stanford and Cal. You know, that's just my opinion. I think just the way everything's going right now, I think it would be a great ad. I think it's a disservice right now with the way Oregon State's playing, being in the top 15. I just think that the way that they're playing, and they have a great head coach, and especially to his alma mater, he's coaching that.
Yeah,
incredible guy being able to do that.
How big of a hurry is he going to get in to leave?
You
know what I mean?
Never. And so that's why I just think that it'd really be a disservice if they went to the Mountain West or even the American. I just think those are two great institutions. They have great fan bases. They're very loyal. Put them in one of the in either the Big 12 or the ACC. Preferably, I'll tell you what, I'd take them in a heartbeat in the ACC and to create the pod out there. That's just my opinion. So
yep, I agree. Hey, I got another question for you guys. Y'all might have already talked about it. What about all these big time quarterbacks that were supposed to put up all these big numbers and be badasses? Where were they this weekend? Other than getting their ass kicked.
Which ones are we talking about?
Well, you don't know who I'm talking about? Come on, man.
I'm sure.
Come on, man.
You
know who I'm talking about.
Talking Jaden Daniels or Kate Klubnik or both?
Where were they? Both of them.
Quinn Ewers.
Yeah,
Thank
Quinn.
you.
Yeah, Quinn's another one.
Yeah, where were all these fellas?
Look, I would tell you that I think Quinn didn't play terrible. I think that Texas didn't play great. I can tell you that part. As far as Jaden was concerned, I don't know what happened to LSU in that second half, and that's something we were. One of the next things I was going to bring up. Forgive me if I'm not ready to just crown FSU for beating LSU after the way that they crumbled. I mean, look, I know they wanted to have a championship parade, yesterday morning. For beating LSU for a second time. But when you beat, when you go and beat Wake Forest and you go and beat NC State, not to mention Clemson's beating you 8 years in a row, then we'll talk. You know what I mean? But look, you beat LSU last year. I'm not sure what's going on with LSU though, and I don't understand you look. Daniels looked good in that first half, but it didn't. It didn't. None of it looked good in the second half. None of it.
I'll tell you what, man, that in your week ones, in generically, even with Texas and everybody, when you're facing an FCS opponent or a smaller opponent, you're going to do the vanilla offense. It's what we all do. I watched it this weekend, even with everybody. But when you look at, especially with Texas having to face Alabama next, I understand why they did what they did.
Sure.
But when you look at FSU, when you look at FSU, for instance, I agree. Again, it depends on the season as it plays out. But what you saw in that game, honestly, Jason, is that you saw Brian Kelly get outcoached. It came down to adjustments in the second half, and you saw a defensive line from Florida State absolutely dominate the line of scrimmage. And same thing with the offensive line. And look, I don't like how Florida State's been a loudmouth all year. They certainly have a lot to prove. I totally agree with you on that. They got a lot of stuff to prove yet. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you this. It's the shellacking. It's not like they won on a block, an extra point last year. This was a shellacking. I mean, they beat them into the ground. And then even today, and then
they were losing at the half and blew them out.
24 unanswered points. I mean, you look at it, and then you have to say to yourself, today they had a news conference, and they said, look, the offensive lineman, the left tackle, number 70 from LSU, said to the defensive line of Florida State, man, you guys got some dogs. I mean, I don't know what he's doing over at LSU. I can't believe, and obviously he opened his mouth earlier in the week saying we're going to beat the brakes off of Florida State. That was a bad move.
What was that about?
I tell you what, the guy's ballsy, but I think he needs to realize that maybe you need to be a better coach first, and before you start opening your mouth. That's
he's got he's got bigger balls than he's got brain. Yeah.
I mean, you look at it, Florida State, that's why I understand the fan base is all pumped up, because it's a much bigger, if they beat the brakes off them this year on national television. But again, like you said, Jason, they got to prove it out the rest of the season. And I'll tell you what, I'm excited to see Florida State come to Pittsburgh in week 10.
Look, that receiver and their whole receiving corps for that matter, they made that LSU secondary look non-existent.
Yeah.
That's
non-existent.
Not even,
and I'll tell you what,
cashing in all the drops too, because Johnny Wilson looked like he was scared of the football at times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, man, I'm telling you that I'm telling you now, these guys, again, I'm not ready to crown FSU yet, but I tell you what, that receiver and that the way that they played, and look, you got to give props to the way that they came out there and handled business in that second half, because they did, and they did it in the trenches. They did it definitely Jordan Travis went out there and had himself a game. You know, he did.
And
So-
Coleman really earned himself right now as a potential first round draft pick. That wide receiver. I mean, he was making NFL
catches.
catches.
End up there instead of wow. And how does MSU let him get away? There ain't no damn way.
Hey, and I love the quarterback's mom that sends him that message before every game. You suck. You suck. You suck. Thanks, Mom.
But I'll say
he didn't suck last night.
Not at all.
LSU doesn't ever have an issue with talent. They always have an issue with discipline and coaching. And Brian Kelly is, doesn't matter what coaches. If you take a coach down there, Brian Kelly hasn't earned any respect from there. Nobody really, when he walked in the doors, nobody was like, oh my God, it's Brian Kelly. Nobody said that crap. And then when you see him dancing around in the recruiting videos, it's hard to take the guy seriously. But that's what you saw a lot of like integrity on the defensive line. You saw a lot of frustrating, the cornerbacks. Every single time that somebody catch a ball, they turn around and look at the safety and point at the safety, or they'd be throwing their hands up like it was a little frustrating. But again, LSU was last year. They had the same stuff. They looked like world beaters at times, and they looked like they weren't going to be able to do much at times. And it's always because they got to get that discipline. They got to break into the coaching. They got to believe in the system. And if they're not going to do that, they're going to do this. They're going to show up at random times, and they're going to put it to people, and they're going to show up at times. You're going to be like, what team am I watching? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. Adela, that's probably because they're having arguments with a couple of different cable providers. So if you are with, I know, what was it?
Their Spectrum.
If you have Spectrum, that's probably why you're not getting it. Right. So, let's see. All right. Yeah, look, I agree with you. And look, we're going to find out. I thought this was a great question. Who is more of the top 4 team right now, Florida State or Notre Dame? I think it's a great question. I think that Notre Dame's definitely better on defense. I think that they're a little more physical. But to be honest with you,
we hadn't played anybody, Jason.
Yeah,
we can't say we're a top team right now. You know what? Right now, if you want to talk between those two teams, right now, Florida State beat somebody. We haven't played a football game yet. We've had 2 scrimmages, and so at the end of the day, let's find. We'll have a better idea after this weekend. I mean,
somebody said it earlier. It's week 1. Like, let's not get too jazzed up, because in week 1, if we pick out the national championship game, it's Oklahoma versus Oregon. You can't
overreact from week 1 for sure. And I think it happens a lot, that you get a lot of overreactions, both on the one side and on the other. That somebody's trash and somebody's not.
Yeah.
So it's easy to kind of do that, but
it's fun.
It is fun to do that.
That's why we do this.
You're picking on the teams that you can't stand.
Yeah.
But
that's why week one is a nice big bowl of ice cream, and it's vanilla. That's what it is. It's vanilla. You're not seeing anything really when you see these teams. When you start seeing week 2, week 3, week 4, that's when we start to see some stuff. When we start getting into the nitty gritty. No one can hide anything anymore. Again, Texas. We'll find out what kind of team Texas and Alabama is here in week 2. That's going to be a tremendous game. In my opinion, Texas should have won last year. That roughing the passer call was a little bit of BS. To be honest with you, it saved Alabama. I'm excited to see what that looks like. There's good matchups coming up here pretty soon. That's why, honestly, the preseason poll, I'm not a big preseason poll guy based off of last year, new teams this year, what teams look like it. Honestly, to me, I wish the AP would really, and I know it would hurt the AP, but the AP shouldn't release an actual AP top 25 till week 4. That's just my opinion. You get 3 games in.
That would hurt us content creators, is what that would do.
Well, I would almost.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. We're still going to talk shit.
We're going to talk about it anyways.
Have you ever seen Big Game Boomer? Anybody can just make up random bullshit and throw it out.
Oh my God, his account.
That's fair. That's a fair statement.
But I'll say this is, if AP went down to like instead of saying like a rankings poll, like a trending poll or something like that, I'd be fine with that. You just rebrand it a little bit. You still put a list together. Now, are people still going to be like, that's right, look at me, we're 5th in the country? People are still going to do that. But none of this matters. And if you don't mind, let me ask you a question. I'm going to pose one that Do you think that with the playoff being next year, coaches and programs that thinking is affecting them this year already, even though that we've got one more year of the 14 playoff?
In what way? What do you mean? What are they? Is it affecting what?
So like the just the intensity right out the box, like because next year you can lose a game. It's okay. It's like the NFL. If your NFL team
loses too,
yeah. And so going forward, it's right around the corner. Now, obviously, every single coach wants to win every single game, and so I'm not really saying that. But I mean, like you saw some lackluster vanillas. I mean, even though JJ, you're right, 100%. It's vanilla as vanilla can be. You saw a lot of people come out and really just not take games, right from the get-go, just across. I mean, hell, look at freaking Baylor. Texas State took in about 25 transfers, from kids who've never played at the university they were at, and they ran Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
They knocked out, what's his name? Is it Chapin? Is that it? Right? The quarterback. He's going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks with the MCL sprain. Like, there were a lot of programs that want to see bounce back games and bounce back year opportunities. And there's a lot of people who were pretty highly ranked, and they were just looking at the game like, all right, this is our tune-up.
Well, I have to say this. I think a lot of those games that we're talking about right now, I think the writing was already on the wall. I don't think a lot of people were listening, and I think a lot of people were paying attention to the preseason polls. But if you look at it, how long have we been talking about Baylor just going down the drain? Mm-hmm. We've been talking about that for almost a year. LSU, I guarantee you guys, I think everybody in this room knew LSU wasn't going to be a great team, but everybody's talking about LSU this, LSU that. I think we're fixing to see the same thing out of Texas. Guys, I think they're going to get handed an ass whooping this weekend. Yeah. And so it's not like we didn't already know that about some of these people, especially, guys like us that we live, eat, die football. And so we have a pretty good idea. Now, the fans that are just out there for your team, they don't pay attention to it as much.
Right.
But, that's just like I guarantee you the fans that come into this podcast, they're pretty football savvy. And I guarantee you they knew some of this was going to happen. Clemson, I wasn't sold on Clemson either. Everybody was talking about they're going to be our hell on wheels. I didn't think LSU was going to be that good. We knew TCU was going to struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I don't think, to answer your question, I don't think that – and Tech, yeah, thank you. Tech's another one. And they pissed me off because I was on that bandwagon.
You were riding high, Coach.
I was. I thought Tech was going to do something, and they pissed down their leg as well. But again, I don't think – this is me personally. I don't think the playoff system for next year is causing some of this. I think a lot of this is being caused by things we knew that were coming on and were going to happen.
Right.
Talk just like Colorado, that script flipped, and we knew he was going to be better. And I'm telling you, he's going to win five or
I
six.
think there was more people that knew that they were better than that than what a lot of people are letting on. There was, look, when you've got a guy like Shedeur, you're going to win football games.
Yeah,
that's all there is to it. And
hey, what's the kid's name Coach? What's the kid's name that played 126 snaps? That's incredible.
Yeah, that guy ought to be the leader to the Heisman right now, if you ask me. When you go out there and you play over 100 snaps, you have a pick and a freaking touchdown on the other side of the football. Come on, man.
At that level of football, that's incredible.
Yeah, no doubt.
And listen, Shedeur was an upgrade over the kid from last year because he was the starter for Arkansas State, and that guy, bless his heart, because he was hot garbage.
Well,
and
let's
so
be honest, they had about 50 upgrades.
Yeah. And I can tell you this too. And again, from today watching the Pat McAfee show, and I listened to Deion Sanders. One of the things I love is that he talked about, how can you coach a guy to do something you never done yourself? And one of the things he was talking about is how he allowed, basically, he's teaching Travis Hunter, who's now playing both sides of the football, that many snaps. He told him this week, hey, Travis, I don't want you on the football field for practice till Wednesday. Your body got to give a rest. You need to treat your body. You got to be in here treating yourself. I can teach you how to do that at the next level. I played two professional sports. I was elite at both professional sports. I've won a Super Bowl. He understands, and that's why it's so good to see an actual coach understand how you treat certain players, because they get it. They understand how to develop these players and what they need to do to reach their potential. Not every player is the same. You don't treat every player the same, because each player, it's like a student in the classroom. Each person in the classroom will teach themselves or even learn differently. So I like how Deion's doing it, and it's understandable. It's a great coaching style, but more importantly, it's good leadership.
And how valuable is that? That's what I was speaking on.
Mhm.
Just the person that's done it before,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? And just the mentorship, just being able to take what he experienced and allow what he does with the coaches, allowing them to coach on their own, and then give real experience, teachable moment to a kid like that who does over 100 snaps. I would assume other coaches wouldn't know that, and they will let him play 100 snaps and come back to practice the next day and just wear his body out through the season.
Mhm.
So, man, such a great guy, man. Such a great coach.
Well, and most of the time you look at Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, guys like this. When you're a phenomenal player, it's hard to coach, because you got to have, like, I would say this is, if Deion continues to get these high 4-star, 5-star defensive backs, you're going to see more of the same. I want to see what Deion can do when he doesn't have the physical talent in a recruit with a 3-star guy or something like that, because that's going to be a different game. But Travis Hunter, you also got to give him a little dab too, because you know what? He's a 5-star kid. He's a kid in these days. And Big Dave, I mean, you can probably tell me your son's, from everything I've heard of him, he is a very, very, very gracious and accepting person. A lot of these kids aren't. They've been told that they were the greatest thing to come to high school football, college football, onto the show, for a long time. So I got to say, I got to give it up to Travis Hunter too for listening and letting Deion, mentor him and speak into him and help him out, because it's not always going to be that. And Deion will have a test. Cormani McClain played a few snaps, but that was he reclassified, but hell, he was, the number one player in the 25 class at one point, 24.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I like too. He treats it like it's honestly, these players that prove themselves, not just in practice, but in the game, he treats them like NFL players. Like, for instance, Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers here in Pittsburgh, one of the things he always did is, if a guy's later on in his career, or if he's early on, like a TJ Watt, and he goes through a little bit of bumps and bruises here and there, he knows how to control the narrative. He knows how to control the body, making sure they're not getting beat up in certain portions. They're not beating their bodies up in camp. I think a lot of these coaches would take that player and Big Dave, you talked about it. They would bring them back to practice and be like, you know what, we're going to pump it down. We're going to make them work twice as hard. We're going to do it right. No, it's understanding the human body, understanding, hey, he went through this many snaps. We need this many days to make sure he gets back to 100% to be the player that I want him to be on Saturday. And why I'm going to do that is not just for his body, but he understands mentally. He understands the game mentally of what I want him to do. So he's there mentally. He understands the football IQ. Now I can trust him to go take care of his body. That's that's really the big thing of why Travis Hunter's being treated the way he is.
Yep.
And to add one onto you, 100%, you have to trust your coach in that moment, because try telling a guy like Jalen Hurts, hey, we need you to back off. This mother effer is hitting the weights after he lost the Super Bowl. There's guys like that out there who, JT Watt, TJ Watt, JJ Watt, whoever. Tell me that one of those guys, if you're like, hey, I need you to just take a rest day, they're going to look at you and be like, I'll rest when I die. No,
exactly.
You got to be able to trust your coach in those moments too.
Well, and guys,
Right.
recovery is one of the critical pieces to having a good year. Every week in and week out, recovery, and some of the teams that work on their recovery after each ball game, they're some of the ones that actually are most successful during the long haul of the season. They see less injuries. that their kids are mentally fresh and obviously physically fresh. So yeah, I agree with you guys. That what he's doing is incredible.
And with him doing that, guys, understand this. That's why a lot of people aren't going to be happy or agree with what he does, right? But I love what he said. There's a clip of him saying, "Do you think he says, do you think I even care what anybody thinks about what I'm doing?"
Yeah.
You know, and I love that a part of, because I'm kind of, so you're looking at a father that had 2 5-stars, 2 number 1 players in high school at their position, 2 national championships, signed 2 NIL huge deals. You know what I mean? So, did all of this with these 2 kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of times where people look at what I've done with my sons back then and didn't agree with what I put DJ in a high school quarterback camp when he was only in 4th grade. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the things that I feel like some people try and encourage parents or some coaches, do not worry about, you know, what people think about what you're doing with your kid. And I just wanted to say that, you know, that's why I applaud the man. And I truly believe if your results, judge me on how my kids turn out, right? Judge me on my results.
And it obviously worked for you, right?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. You know, and I go around helping other families, and I just speak on what I did with my kids and what I felt that worked. You know what I mean? And I just, when I watch, as for you thinking that you were wrong about Sanders' son as a quarterback, you weren't wrong. You just didn't have enough information. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you were wrong. If all the things that were out there about him, you couldn't say he was going to do, you know, well. So I don't think you were wrong. It's just you didn't. There wasn't enough tests for him games to really see how he would have done out there. So I don't think you were wrong. It was just that it wasn't enough. You know, we couldn't see enough games with him, you know, playing out there.
And I think it gets to that point where, you know, I've said before, you know, leadership is it's not a noun, it's not an adjective, it's a verb, it's action, it's moving. And I think that when you want to go against the grain and to do something special, okay, if anything good in life is hard, it's hard, okay. If it was easy, everyone would do it. There's a very few that would do it, and it takes the uncharted path. Okay, you have a chance to go left or right. Sometimes you need to go left where there hasn't been a path yet or a road, but it's up to you as a leader to make that road. Okay, when it comes to you and your kids, you did a hell of a job. You went outside the box. You saw the way you wanted to do it. You understood, hey, I'm doing this for the benefit of my kids. That's leadership. Okay, and I think, honestly, as a parent, you know, I don't have kids yet, but I can tell you this. As a parent, you always want the best for your kids. And no matter what it is, you're going to press and push no matter what it is. And I think it's the same way in coaching. When you look at these guys and you understand that they're not just your players, you have 100 kids on your team. Those are 100 of your sons. It's a whole different ball game. And the best coaches understand that. And to take that leadership role, you need to do things that aren't popular. Leadership is one of the most, you know, daring things you can ever do, because you're not going to be liked 100% of the time. You may not be liked 30% of the time, but they will respect you with the end goal, understanding you know where you're going. Leadership is not for everybody, because guess what? If you want something that's going to please you 100% of the time, go get a bowl of ice cream. If you want to be happy for a month, go on a cruise. Okay. If you want true leadership and to earn respect of other people, go outside the box and do the right thing, because guess what? They may not be happy now, but in a month or two, they will be.
You know what, JJ? I love everything you said. And I tell you what's funny about it is and the reason I was late, because I'm coaching a little 2nd and 3rd grade flag football team. And I had my parents meeting tonight. And the words that just came out of your mouth just now are almost exactly the words I talked to the parents about today. So I love it, buddy. You're spot on, brother.
Spot on.
I'm just going to say this to the folks that are in there not enjoying that we're talking about CU. I don't really give a shit if you guys like it or not. I'm going to tell you, I just don't care. There's a reason why there was a reason to talk about them. Nobody picked them to beat TCU last weekend. They go on the road and get it done.
Quit saying nobody. Quit saying nobody.
a lot of people did not pick them. Hey, a lot of people in this channel didn't pick them to do it, right? They come and watch this every week. You guys don't have to love it, but the truth is, you're gonna have to start giving them their due, because you can't sit there and call TCU trash after they were a freaking 3-touchdown favorite, and not only that, you were picking them. Perfect. Some people are sick of hearing about it. You know what? There's plenty to talk about. We're talking about everybody in the country today. If you look on the right side over there, we're talking about everybody here. We're going to be talking about Texas and Alabama here in a minute. Everybody's talking about them. So whether or not you guys like it or don't like it, I'm sorry, but this is, do your own show then, bro. Don't talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about there.
We've talked about Duke and Clemson. We've talked about Florida State, LSU, Colorado. So if you go to ESPN's headlines, number 3, Duke, Colorado, enter top 5, FSU vaults number 4. I mean, this is an absolute. I mean, it's one of the leading stories in college football. Yeah. Now it's nobody is crowning him. Nobody is saying, like, how do you think he's going to do against Alabama or LSU or Georgia or Ohio State in the national championship game or anything like that. But it's there. I already showed up with my apologies to Prime, and it looked a lot better than I thought it was.
Sure.
Anyway.
Especially in a week, once again, where there's a lot of people like Georgia that look like dog shit.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about what's hey, this is a college football show, and we're talking about college football and what just happened. Okay, you don't have to like it. If you don't like it, you don't got to be here, guys. That's all.
Hey, Jason.
I mean, I love everybody here, and I'm glad that we have an audience. But I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna run this show the way that we see fit, and everybody's talking about CU this week, and CU earned for everybody to talk about them too.
Hey, Jason.
Go.
Love you, brother. Let's keep on trucking.
Yeah.
Let's talk some college football, baby.
Let's move along. Shit. All right. You guys get me all wound up and shit. Looking ahead to next week and the big game of the week, particularly.
Hey, let's talk about Colorado.
All right. Yeah. Anyway.
Texas,
now,
yeah.
Let's talk about Texas, Bama. What's going on with this game? Hey, look, I've been saying, and I feel like that Bama was a lot better. I don't think that there was a question about the quarterback for all this time that we've been talking about. Now, I mean, obviously they didn't play anybody either this past week, but they look better against their nobody than Texas did. They are at home. What are your feelings? We'll start with you, Coop. What are your feelings there, knowing what you know about Texas? What are their chances of going into Tuscaloosa and getting a win?
I just don't see much hope for Texas in this game. The strength of that team was supposed to be their offensive line and all their skill positions. They were playing against Rice with multiple opportunities, kind of like with where Duke took advantage of Clemson's mistakes. Texas couldn't take advantage of Rice's mistakes. If I'm Alabama, I say hit Quinn Ewers a lot. Don't knock him out of the game. He needs to stay in the game. You don't want Malik Murphy coming in, because then all that sudden everything that you trained against is going to change, because he's going to be running that old school. What was the quarterback? They called it the 10-wheel package when they ran the little thing way back in a couple years back. But there is a 100% chance that this is an absolute beatdown. I think Nick Saban. Did you see? And that last year, if you guys haven't read this, Texas allowed like upper deck seats only to the Bama band. And so they didn't show. Well, that's all that Alabama gave the band and fans for guest tickets this week. And so Nick Saban, he may not address a lot of stuff, but he has been pandering this whole entire offseason about, don't you forget my name. You guys, we are 2 possessions away from a perfect season last year. Were they as good as they usually? No, they weren't. I think they read a lot of press clippings too, but when you schedule a Middle Tennessee State, your goal is ass whooping in every possession. And they did that. Jalen Milroe, he still has to prove it to, against big boy competition. But on the ground, they've, between him, McClellan, they do have a couple defensive backs that are going to be dinged up here a little bit. So, I think that if you can have the front seven from Alabama just really put tons and tons of pressure, you got inconsistency, which matches up with forced errors. It's just a perfect recipe for, an ass whooping.
Good call, Coop.
Good call.
Okay.
And again, do not knock Quinn Ewers out of the game. For the love of God.
Do not
knock him
knock
out of the
Quinn
game.
Ewers out of the game. Nobody wants to see the Transformer, bro. Nobody. I promise you, they don't want to see him in Tuscaloosa either. I'm telling you now that guy is, to me, he's got the opportunity to be like Vince Young 2.0. When he's 6'5", got that kind of speed and that kind of arm, scary, right? Scary. So to me, I hope that Quinn Ewers stays upright and they get their ass kicked. But I hope he stays upright and in the game. So yeah. The spread, I don't think it's a ton. It was 10 earlier in the summer. I hadn't really looked at it.
I saw 8 last week. It might be down to 7. I'm trying to take a looky-loo here. It's a 7-point spread.
Okay.
I always find it
Coach, I
funny
was
that
saying
ESPN,
7.
ESPN went for years and years and years against any gambling spreads or anything like that. Now they listed on the upcoming scores. It just blows my mind every time.
Right. Yeah, for Sooner Nation, as Stephen G says, for Sooner Nation, do not knock out Quinn Ewers. Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to. And look, here's the thing. Quinn's a good football player. I'm not even trying to I don't think anybody here is really dogging Quinn because he had a good game the other day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now Texas didn't have a great game. We do know that they play down to their. This is the way they've always kind of been. They play down to their competition. This is how Texas is. They also play up to their competition. And I would just tell you that, that these guys are probably going to play pretty well against them. But I do feel like in the end, Alabama wins this game. I think they cover 7. And they're going to try to bully ball ugly this thing up, in my opinion. You're going to see them try to, because their talent, listen, no matter what anybody thinks about Alabama, whether they're going to make it to the playoff or win the West, even in the SEC, you can't knock the fact that they're definitely one of the top 2 talent rosters in the country, right? That, there's no 2 ways around that. Now, Texas has got a lot of talent on their roster too. They always do. But in the end, that's I would still. I'm going to bet on Nick Saban more times than I'm going to bet on freaking Steve Sarkisian, man. 7-win Sark is just not the dude, right?
Well, last year you saw what happened, right? Alabama almost lost that game, and I just feel like sometimes Sarkisian, because he came from Alabama, I think he kind of knows something and some of the stuff that happens there. So, for me, I'm thinking it's going to be a pretty good game. I know all the variables and everything that's going on that we see, but for some reason, just Sarkisian sometimes just kind of dials up some stuff. You know what I mean? He kind of knows the tendencies of Alabama, and hopefully we can have a good game like last year.
I think it should be a pretty decent game, but I think they end up covering it. And the reason being is because Sark just doesn't – he's not great at – here's the thing, Big Dave, is that we've seen this a lot. Yeah. The first year there, he doesn't make adjustments. He doesn't make adjustments. When the other school makes their adjustment, Sark doesn't seem to. And I think that as great as he's doing recruiting, as great as they're going to be on that offense, and I think once he gets out of his script, it gets to be hard. They even lost – they were up 17 at OSU last year and going into the fourth quarter and just gag it away because he's not, handing the ball to his thoroughbreds, which was crazy to me, right? Bijan and Roshan, and neither one of them touched the ball hardly in the whole fourth quarter.
into the wind too. It's not like there was one factor. I mean, that wind was damn near 25, 30 mile per hour gusts. And he
this
just
is
kept on
one
letting it
place
win.
in the country that it switched, and so it's going
Yeah.
left and right. You saw balls that were getting pushed off of line by 10 yards.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff, right?
Wow.
So how many times has one of Saban's assistants beat him when they've played each other?
Not often.
Yeah, but they asked Sark that question, and Sark said, well, just let me re-ask you a question. He said, how many of non-passed, what's the record of non-passed assistants versus Sark? Versus Saban. So, yeah, but there's the Belichick stat like that too in the NFL. So, but you're right. I mean, at some point you can't. I mean, when you have such a lopsided encounter, those things come in. You hear all of it. You hear it all the time. I mean, you watch. I don't know if you guys watch Ted Lasso, but they have that in there. Because they go and they play a team that they lose to every single year, and it just gets in the players' heads. And so I think that's it. But as far as the coaching mismatches, this is a game to where if Sark. I think it's better for Sark to get blown out than to, miss it by, a hair again, because then a lot of people are going to start tabbing him in that Texas politics that he can't win big games.
Which is probably a true statement.
Mm-hmm.
And Texas is Texas. You can throw whatever name you want
Amen,
there.
brother.
They are never, because guess what? If Nick Saban came to Alabama, he would deal with the same shit that anybody else does. Why? Because you put a bunch of billionaire oil men and they think they're smarter than Nick Saban. This dude plays a game for a living. I lost his contract last year and it annoyed me. So that whole thing. And again, like I said, you didn't see our boy Arch Manning coming in the game against Rice at all. And if you have that situation, Texas doesn't want Malik in there at all, because they don't want him to get hurt, because Arch sure as hell ain't going to. He hasn't played players. You pick one of Alabama's defenders, and it's the best defensive back or defensive lineman or linebacker that he's ever played.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I tell you, and JJ, I know this bookie that said he gave me a 7.5 points in the game. I don't know where the hell he came from, but he shot me a text. But again, I don't think this leads to. I think this is one of the same storylines that we talked about on these other teams that everybody said they were going to be world beaters, and quarterback going to be a Heisman Trophy type guy. Again, Sarkisian has not proven to us he can win. Coop, you said it. Texas is Texas. And, the good old days of their good runs is over. And I think they lose by at least 21 this weekend.
Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo.
At least.
All right. Hey, I'll buy that for $1. Thanks, Chicken, for the super chat there. He said, hit that like button. I will do a shot for Coop. He is a wee bit prude. Is he?
Not sure what this means. Hey
I
guys,
don't know what this means either, but yeah. But listen,
I want to say one thing. I took some screenshots. I think that the kids call them receipts about all the before college football taking off, and I see Quinn Ewers as the 8th pick in the draft. And so I'm holding on to that. I emailed it to myself so I wouldn't lose it, just because again and I'll match them up with LSU. How do you take a team? What's the old saying, Coach? If someone keeps on trying to tell you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
It's you take a team like LSU and a team and I throw out Joe Burrow because that team was just out of its mind. But you LSU is schizophrenic. Texas, same situation. And it's almost one of those deals like you just gotta, I'm not from Missouri, but I like the show me state mentality. You just gotta show me.
Absolutely.
You gotta get there. And Alabama has been pushed in the corner, and they've been told for now 2 years plus that they are done. Nick Saban he's thinking about retirement. Folks are making career decisions and life decisions for Nick Saban, and he don't even know them. Makes me think of the Geno Smith quote last year. Everybody wrote me off, but I didn't write back. And so I just, I see Nick Saban really wanting to stump a mud hole in a lot of folks' backside this year.
Yes, sir.
Because of all of this. And again, if Texas goes out, and I say that, but if earlier in the year I said, don't be surprised if Texas goes out there and really puts it to Alabama because of the confusion on the quarterback side. Jalen Milroe, a lot of people already making Jalen Hurts, comparisons, but he's a little bit more twitchy, more athletic. Jalen Milroe still hasn't played anybody, so he still needs to hop in there and ball out too, because Texas defense was what really made that game as much of a blowout as was this past week. Is Texas put that defensive output against that entire Alabama team and the number one pick in the NFL draft last year.
I was going to say a little bit of the devil's advocate. When I'm looking at both of these teams, here's why I think the game will be close, and I think it'll be a cover one way or the other. When Quinn Ewers faced Rice this week, and again we said it was 37-10. He was 19 of 30, 260 yards, 3 tutties. When I went back and watched that tape, because I wanted to watch that because I was getting ready, geared up for the Alabama-Texas game this week because I wanted to see this game again because it was a good game last year. To me, when I was watching some of the tape, I think they were holding some stuff back, and I think they can get caught up a little bit. Texas didn't handle it the way I thought they would. I thought they'd be able to run the score up a little bit more. But the one thing that really gets me is, Alabama won, obviously, 56-7, okay? But Jalen Monroe only was 13 of 18 for 194 yards, okay? Obviously, he had 3 touchdowns. But it's middle Tennessee, okay?
Yeah.
Me personally, I think this game will be close because, one, there are a lot of questions with the quarterback position, okay? And I think when Nick Saban is asked about the quarterbacks, all 3 of them play. Tyler Buchner from Notre Dame, obviously he didn't get a lot of snaps. I mean, he only threw 5 passes. And even Ty Simpson got in there, only had 1 pass. But when he talked about all 3 quarterbacks, the first thing he said was, like they asked him, what did you think about the quarterbacks? He goes, they all threw the ball, they all were out there, and they all got sacked, and they all had incompletions. That's kind of like a comment like, hey, I wasn't really happy about the overall play of my quarterbacks while they were out there. I think there's a lot of question marks. Texas does have a lot of talent. They got to prove it. I think we certainly hit it on the head with Steve Sarkisian, and a guy that can't win more than 9 games, hasn't won 10 games in his career. He's got a lot of talent. He's got to prove it. But I think this game's going to be close because he's gearing up for it. From watching the tape, he's certainly held some stuff back because he knows he has to come out and really game plan to the point where it's going to be in Tuscaloosa. But I think that their defense, the way they're planning, is that hey, it's not Tua out there. There's a lot of question marks with this quarterback room. Can they handle that amount of pressure? Because they're going to go into this game saying, hey, look, we got to win this game. We got to win this game to make sure we keep our level headed and to make sure we're going towards a national championship and then get to compete with Georgia, obviously. And in my opinion, if they lose this game, Alabama is still going to be in it for the college football playoff because they can still win the conference. But I think overall, when you look at this, I think it's going to be a really tight game because there's stuff that Sark's hiding. Okay. I think he held back a little bit. Do I think Texas wins? I don't. I think Alabama's defense, I think it's going to be a star-studded defense. But I want to see Xavier Worthy, what he does in Tuscaloosa. I want to see what he does. I want to see if their defense does show up. What does Quinn Ewers do? Now, if Quinn Ewers gets hurt, then yeah, I think the game is completely over because Manning won't be able to take that kind of pressure going into Alabama. But I think overall, I think the game's going to be close. These are 2 really good teams in terms of talent level. It's whether Texas really steps up. And also, too, what does the quarterback room do for Alabama? It's going to be a fun thing to watch.
JJ, what Sark,
real quick,
what Sark is hiding is wins.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I what I was saying was what Sark is hiding is the W's, the wins.
Yeah.
Correct.
That is correct.
Real quick, guys, let's want to say thank you to Nelio. He another super chat there for $10. Good to be back here. He says, love the debate on college football, fellas. Yeah, listen, I think it's and then there was another pretty good questions here. What would be the key to a Texas win? Private Key asked that, and Nelio came back with a pretty good one as well. getting the wide receivers out in space, finding them would be a start. Let their playmakers do their thing. I think you're correct on that. And being able to, if you are able to get a lead and stuff like that, my thing was, do you trust this running back, this stable of running backs, when you didn't trust the last ones, would be my question. Again, if they can make an adjustment, because that Alabama will. You know that Alabama will. So it's a matter to me. I got to figure out whether or not they're going to finally learn to make an adjustment here before I'm going to give anything to those guys. Again, thanks for the super chat. We appreciate that a lot. Some of these new comments. Let's see. Nobody but Colorado opened up the playbook this weekend. I don't think that a lot. I think you're right there, Shawty. That's pretty good. You know what I mean? A lot of vanilla playbooks, things like that. I don't even know that you saw the whole playbook there from CU as well. You know what I mean? We're gonna have to wait and see whatever happened. But yeah, AD Mitchell is gonna be important for Texas. Knows what it is to beat
Saban. I'm guessing.
Yeah, to beat Saban.
Yeah.
And then oh man, Adela, I'm sorry to hear you got COVID.
I'm sorry, Adela.
Oh, that sucks. CU went all in as they should have. They did. They needed to. And I don't know that you saw that playbook though. You know what I mean? And I just don't think that you've seen a ton of that playbook when it comes to Sean Lewis. You know, I mean, you don't. Not everybody played him every year, so it's
And guys, I don't care if number 1 and number 2 are playing in the first week of the season. You don't get the whole playbook. You don't have time to install the whole playbook. And you're going to find what's been successful against those people previously and what, the best about them. But nobody's installing the whole playbook.
Yeah, you work on things, and it does not matter who lines up across from you. You have been watching your own teammates play against you for 9 months now. You could have had a baby in that span since you last played football. And
I think some have.
Yeah, and Georgia fans, and then they went for a nice speed race. But you've been doing that, and all of a sudden you see something that you've seen in a teammate for the past 9 months, and you react to that instead of how you typically react, because again, you just do it over and over and over. It's going to you're going to create a habit. And so that's why you're going to see some shenanigans happen in the first week of the season. JJ, the only thing I'll say about watching Texas is that I felt they struggled. It was the offensive line. And around here, people have been touting the Texas offensive line as the best in decades. And, Kelvin Banks is the big name around there. Those guys didn't, that's where they struggled is, when Quinn starts feeling pressure and it's inconsistent, but it's often, that's when we've seen Quinn look really, really bad, because his mechanics fall apart and he just goes for just slinging arm talent. And you just watch him. Watch him when he's confident. He throws the ball differently. And but again, how many quarterbacks can you say that about? And no quarterbacks do really, really good when they have somebody on their ass half the time.
And you're right.
Hey, guys, we got to let JJ get out of here. Hey, appreciate you coming on the show as always, JJ. And of course, you got under the skin of the UGA folks in there in the audience about the back-to-back, about the jokes there. So the speeding jokes. But hey, Coach, I appreciate you guys and Shawty as well. But hey, JJ, thanks a lot for coming on. Make sure to let everybody know where we can find you, and we'll appreciate you coming on again.
Yeah, again, before I even tell everybody where to find me, obviously, Coach Jason, Big Dave, I know he's not on here. Tell him, it was really a pleasure to meet him. Guys, it's always good coming on here. Again, guys, in the comment section, this is always a great show to come on. I don't come on all shows because it's really good to be able to be with these guys because of the amount of knowledge that they have. It's so good to be here. The show is what it is because of you guys. Remember to hit the like button. And again, subscribe to the channel. Do everything you can for these guys because they are the best of the best. Jason, thank you again, as always, for allowing me to come on here. It's always a pleasure to come on to a great show like this.
Brother, we love having you on, my man.
In a big prediction, when you get to see Big Dave again, tell him I got Oregon State beating USC this year. Boom. Hold on to it, okay?
I think a lot of people do around here.
Yeah.
Hey, JJ, I just wanted to say your show's great too. So thank you. I love
Absolutely.
jumping in there. But Coop, both, you guys are incredible. I think I learned more football from you guys than I've learned in years.
I'll tell you what.
I'll put it in. It's actually in our description right now, Stephen G. But it's Talking Football with JJ Kitchen. It's Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. But his link is in our channel description right now. So just jump on there. You can get on there anytime. But yeah, everybody make sure to get in there and subscribe to his channel, man. This guy's one of the best in the business out there. We love having him on the show. JJ, we appreciate you again, bud.
Again, guys, thank you guys so much for everything you guys do. The fans, you guys are the best. That's why this stuff is so much fun. Again, Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. And you can also find me on Twitter at JJ_Kitchen40. And of course, Coach I from Fan Addict Sports Network. Give him a follow as well. I'll tell you what, guys, it's always a pleasure. Thank you guys so much. You guys are the best. Love you guys. I can't wait to have you guys on my show. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Love you, brother. Thanks for coming in,
Love you, brother.
Talk to you soon.
Hey, I gotta say, JJ's in a 3-piece suit. If you find his Twitter handle, so he's not. He definitely isn't meathead in a tank top. So if you look at it and you're like, "Oh my God, I found a financial analyst who has a similar Twitter," but no, that's him.
That's good.
That's the truth too, man. The guy is a top-notch financial analyst. He's one of those dudes, man. JJ is the man. Hey, actually, yeah, in a couple of weeks too. WVU fan here, love JJ. Great talk show. Yeah, I'm glad you guys jumped over there. You'll love his show, man. And we got to get him to 1,000 subs, man. We're trying to get him there as quick as we can because, man, he puts out some great content. Obviously, you got the Backyard Brawl coming up next week in week 3. That's going to be a big time game there as well. Excited for that one. He'll be on. I'm pretty sure he'll be on Kuz's Corner as well. And if you're not already a freaking member of his show or you're a follower of Kuz, you should be. He's one of the best shows out there, even if it is for West Virginia. We love Kuz. We love Kuz.
Have I ever told you the story of how Kuz and I kind of became respectable counterparts? Is when the Huggins stuff went down. He was posting a bunch of pictures, and a lot of people were obviously had polarizing opinions of that. But I just said, this sucks. This is an absolute terrible thing for him to go through, and there's nothing cool about it. But Bob Huggins was a guy who he gave 2 damns about his kids. He loved them and cared for them and everything. And I was backing up that. And some dude took a shot at me, and Kuz kind of came in, and we started chatting up. And then when I ended up on the show with him, a couple weeks back, I thought it was really great. So I mean, that's one of the great things about, if you follow us, we typically share and connect with a lot of people. We got George Stoya from Sooner Scoop coming on tomorrow night with Jay and I, and awesome. So I mean, that's always a big deal. And we respect the hell out of each other. Again, this is Sooner football, college football, stuff like that around here.
Absolutely.
Notre Dame, people consume content. That's what I did that Bitcoin show for the longest time. It was hard for me to consume content. One, because a lot of concussions, but number 2, it's not something that was just part of my blood. Hell, I've got something playing at all aspects of the day because I want to hear it. So we got to, we love to help each other out because there's plenty of years to go around.
Yeah,
we've said it a ton on here that we have the best guests period on this show. To bring you guys, we've felt really blessed to be able to bring on Big Dave like that and to be able to talk to him, after having, this is his second time on the show, but after DJ had such a big game over the weekend and wanted to talk to him about it. And, he didn't really want to say a whole lot about Clemson, and I don't blame him. But he did come on and make a few comments and say what he felt about that. So we appreciate that from him.
But he's a pretty classy fella.
He is a classy guy, man. And this what a great family. That whole family. You can't. How do you have a problem with the Uyunglele family? You can't. You know what I mean? I don't care who you're a fan of. There's no way that you could. So it's to me, we bring on guys like that. We bring on JJ. We've had on Shoddy and Coach I mean, they're two of the best in the business too. JJ, one of the best. Koo's one of the best. I mean, hey, Coop and Jay from Unfair Sports. I mean, these dudes are pros, period.
They are.
Everybody we bring on, we got Ty. I mean, I don't want to miss anybody here. Everybody
Hey,
that
Chris.
we bring on this show is the real deal, period. So be happy with that. I'm glad that we are able to do that. Look, we bring you guys as good a content as what we can week after week. We love you guys. We love our audience, and that includes even when you start coming at us about stuff perfect and stuff that, look, we're going to come right back at you about some stuff too, but we appreciate you guys being members of this show. The main thing is, guys, we're going to talk about everything though. We are, and you don't have to agree with everything we say, but I will hope that you guys kind of, keep that low. What did he say? Let Coop know one more strike, I was going to get on his head.
I was taking shots at Georgia. Hey, I'll say that. I'll say this is, if Georgia wants to F around, they're going to find out at that same level. I don't want to be the one that pisses them off, and but somebody's going to come in, somebody's going to bulletin board them, and it's going to fire them up, and then all of a sudden they want to, as a team, kick your ass. As long as they are dormant, absolutely, playing, whoever they played, whatever. We saw them struggle against Missouri. That's not because Missouri put together a good game plan. It's just hard as a human being to be in 24/7, 365, game in, game out. Ask any athlete. I talked to DeMarco Murray a while back about, just the buy-in on the running backs. And he says, one of the big reasons why Tawee Walker was out there for OU this week is because every single moment of every single snap of every single practice, Tawee was the one not getting screamed at. He just did what he was supposed to do, show up. And as a coach, right? That's who you want. You don't want the superstar who flashes and then looks like he doesn't know what sport he's playing, every once in a while. Like, you want to see consistency.
Right.
Yep.
Hey, and we love you. We love you guys too, Steve. We appreciate you guys all coming in. That even the ones that are busting my chops today, man. I love all you guys too. So yeah, I like to talk about college football, all college football, and we're going to continue to talk about all of it, guys. You know what we are, and yeah. Look, this is why we bring people on like this, Shoddy. I mean, Coop is the man. We're gonna he's gonna come in here. He's gonna take his shots, but he's gonna give you real stuff too. This is why he's a member. He's always on this channel, particularly on Tuesdays. Because he's the man too. We love him.
Be the champ. You got to beat the champ, right? So yeah. I mean, Georgia's.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that part. There's no doubt about that part. I think that they're gonna find their way. I feel like Georgia is going to be there because of the fact that it's kind of similar to what we've been talking about with OU, is that their schedule sets up for them to have a chance. I mean, almost definitely to get back to the playoff for them. It sets up for OU to have a shot to get in as well. Obviously, you need to probably, go right through it. Oh, hey, you know what, Onakuno, I've watched his show quite a bit, and I've never really gotten to speak to him. I actually will reach out to him. That's not a terrible idea. I like it. Yeah, because I like his show. He's a good creator. He is. No, it's all good, bro. Don't worry. We're all
be
good.
Better, Hank. Be better.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him and stuff. I don't know if he watches our show or anything like that, or but I'd enjoy having him on there. We definitely like to have him. Be better. All right, guys. We appreciate everybody coming in here. Look, we're going at 2 hours and 23 minutes. Everybody else has moved on out of here. I got to get some stuff done this evening as well. I want to thank Coach and Coop for coming in and for giving us amazing, as usual, amazing insight into last week and coming up this weekend as well. Coop, let everybody know how to find you.
Yeah, check us out, Unfair Sports. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter. We are going to have George Stoya from CenterScoop.com from the On3 network. George is a younger cat, but he was a writer covered the Denver Broncos the past couple of years. Kerry and Josh brought him over. And we actually had Sam May scheduled for Sunday night, but with his new stuff, Bob Stoops called him. So I told him I was pissed that, he went to go hang out with Bob instead of me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I get it, man. I get it. Well, thanks again for coming on the show, man. You definitely bring a lot to the table. We love having you on. Love having you on, man. And so we appreciate that. Coach.
Absolutely.
All right.
You want me to tell them where they can find me, Jason?
You can find Coach right where he is. Right here at HOF Media.
You can find me down the street at this little bar. And no.
Or apparently in Ireland at the pub.
Absolutely. Having a pint, baby.
Having a pint. Shawty, we appreciate all you guys coming in. Everybody, all you folks that were a part of the show tonight, we appreciate that a lot. Shawty, Coach I, everybody who's dropped in on us, Neelio, Chicken, Steve B, Perfect.
Hope Adela gets feeling better.
Chicken, of course. Hank. Hey, man. Even though the fight was going on, I appreciate everybody being here. Private Key, Tim, appreciate you. Stephen G. I'm going to shout out everybody I can here. Of course, Adela, we love you to death.
Get well.
Get better.
Yeah, get better soon. And let me make sure I didn't miss anybody else. Private Key, I said you already. Want to make sure. Hey, John Marzula, thank you for coming in. We appreciate that as well. Eric, thanks again. And of course, JJ was a big part of this today. Let's see. I think that's about all of you folks that were in here today. Peninsula, I didn't want to miss you either. Everybody, if I did miss you, I apologize. Eric Basham, Shawty, all you folks, thanks a lot again for coming in. We appreciate you, and we will see you on the next one.